Parallel Hearts. Welcome back to Silent Confessions' Story of Infidelity. Today's tale is one of temptation, forbidden boundaries, and the kind of passion that burns too hot to ignore. What happens when love and desire cross the ultimate line? Stay tuned for this emotional, steamy, and jaw-dropping confession. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell to never miss a story that'll leave you questioning everything. Maya adjusted the straps of her crimson dress, the silky material clinging to her curves as if it had been poured on her. She studied herself in the full-length mirror, her heart racing with anticipation and a hint of nervous energy. Her dad's vague text earlier, "Leila's moving in, be ready for dinner," reverberated in her mind. No details, no explanation, just enough to leave her both curious and unsettled. She took a deep breath, her hands brushing over the smooth fabric of her dress, lingering over her hips as her thoughts spiraled. What was Leila like? Warm and inviting, or maybe aloof, with a wall of charm too polished to penetrate? Something about the way she'd been introduced, Leila's moving in, sounded overly casual but ominous, as if this wasn't just about a new stepmother. The low rumble of tires on the driveway snapped her out of her haze. She drifted to her window and drew back the curtain. The sight of her dad's sleek SUV pulling into its customary spot made her pulse race, but what came next sent a different energy surging through her veins. The passenger door opened, and Leila stepped out. Tall, poised, with an effortless magnetism, Leila looked like someone meant to be seen. The plunging neckline framed her collarbones, teasing anyone bold enough to look, while honey-brown curls cascaded down her shoulders, each bouncing curl alive with its own rhythm. Her hips swayed in a hypnotizing cadence, every step deliberate, making the sound of her heels on the driveway feel amplified, reverberating in Maya's chest. Despite the house's threshold still separating them, Leila was already commanding the room. The sound of her measured footsteps grew louder in Maya's ears, as though they could trespass through walls. Maya's heart clenched at what felt like an invisible pull between them, tugging her forward, yet holding her frozen in place. As Leila paused to adjust the strap on her designer bag, her gaze suddenly lifted to the window and locked on Maya's. For a moment, time splintered into fragments so silent, Maya could have sworn she heard her own staggered breath. Leila's lips curved into the slow, deliberate smile of someone well-practiced in control. By the time Maya descended the stairs, she'd rehearsed at least a dozen versions of how she'd introduce herself. None accounted for the disarming combination of Leila's velvet voice and refined charm that left her fumbling. Leila extended her hand first, her touch warm and lingering. Her almond-shaped eyes held Maya's with a devastating calm. "So you're Maya," Leila murmured, her voice low and smooth. "Nate told me you were beautiful, but he underestimated." The air crackled like a static charge. Maya's breath caught, words dissolving before they could form. "Thank you," she finally managed, feeling the heat rising to her neck. Leila's smile only deepened. Dinner stretched on like a slow reel of emotions Maya wasn't ready to unpack. Leila sat at the head of the table where her dad usually presided. Her slender fingers toyed with the base of her wine glass, the light catching the faint gloss on her lips as she laughed melodically at something mundane Nate had said. Maya's attention wavered between her own plate and the occasional stolen glance at Leila. Each time she looked, a new detail captured her. The way Leila's hair grazed her bare shoulder, an invitation for a closer look. The crinkling of her eyes as she smiled at something Nate didn't seem to notice carried double meaning, a shared language Maya wasn't fluent in, but keen to learn. Then there was the way Leila's leg stretched and crossed under the table, the hem of her jumpsuit hiking up just far enough to reveal a smooth sliver of thigh. What was she doing? Maya berated herself after every glance. This was her dad's new wife. Leila's charisma, though, didn't feel familial. It consumed the room, placing Maya directly in its gravitational center. As tension ebbed from the evening and the house grew quieter, Maya retreated to her room, hoping for solitude. But a soft knock interrupted her attempt to regain composure. When she opened the door, Leila stood framed against the dim hallway light, holding a steaming mug. "Chamomile tea," Leila said, her voice warm, eyes carrying a layered softness that felt too specific. "Your dad told me it's your favorite." Maya's fingers curled around the mug as she took it, but they brushed against Leila's. The contact, though brief, sent a ripple of heat through Maya, making it difficult to meet her gaze. Yet she couldn't pull away. Leila lingered, her eyes sweeping softly over Maya with an unreadable mix of affection and amusement, as though she was privy to Maya's racing heart. "You're sweet for doing this," Maya finally said. Leila stepped further in, perching herself casually on the edge of Maya's bed. The casual intimacy of the moment, the boundary of her space broken, made a knot of emotions rise in Maya's throat. Leila's scent, something sultry with vanilla and spice, flooded the air, making it impossible for Maya to breathe without feeling consumed by her presence. "You look nervous," Leila observed, her voice smooth like water slipping through fingers. Her position, poised yet unguarded, turned the everyday setting of Maya's room into something that felt deeply charged. "Am I making you uncomfortable?" Maya's jaw tightened instinctively as she fumbled for an answer. "No, it's just, everything's moving so fast. This." She gestured to the tea as though it could deflect from the weight of her words. Leila chuckled, the sound low in her chest and too knowing. "And change isn't your thing. I get it." Her gaze met Maya's. It hovered, lingered, settled there. Maya shifted under that look, a small thrill skimming across her skin like the beginning of a storm. "But it can also be thrilling. Sometimes," Leila's voice dropped lower, barely above a whisper, "it's the unexpected things that end up figuring us out." Maya's hands tightened on the mug, a hollow ache filling the pit of her stomach. Not discomfort, though she would have settled for that. You really think that?" she asked, her words trembling. Leila's laugh was velvet. "You tell me," she said simply, standing now, her departure leaving Maya with more questions and growing warmth than she could handle. Days passed, but the air between Maya and Leila remained electric. It was in the soft-spoken compliments Leila dropped with charming ease. Like when Maya wore a fitted top and Leila let her gaze linger almost too long before remarking, "You have impeccable taste." It was in shared moments during breakfast where Leila casually brushed her hand near Maya's, just enough to make Maya's pulse spike. Every glance, every shared lingering moment felt deliberate yet impossible to read. One evening, as Nate excused himself to take a business call, Maya and Leila found themselves alone in the living room. Maya sat across from her, avoiding Leila's gaze while pretending to scroll through her phone. "You're quiet," Leila noted. Her tone wasn't accusatory, but carried enough weight to press Maya into answering. Maya looked up, their eyes meeting. "Just tired, I guess," she replied weakly. Leila's smirk was subtle, but it reached her eyes. "Tired of me already?" It was a small tease, but the way she leaned forward, elbows propped on her knees, placed her close enough that Maya caught her breath. She couldn't continue this game without unraveling. "I'm just figuring you out," Maya responded, her words careful. But the truth was written in her flushed cheeks, tirelessly betraying her composed facade. "Well," Leila said evenly, "I've always believed figuring someone out comes from..." She paused, her dark eyes sparkling like a trap. Getting closer. Her words held layers, each one heavier than the last. Later that night, Maya couldn't quiet her thoughts. Her world had become an unsolvable puzzle, one where Leila acted as both the question and the answer she was perhaps too scared to explore. In her heart, she grappled with boundaries she hadn't set but already sensed were cracking. Because when Leila smiled like that or leaned in just so, Maya didn't trust herself to remember why stepping down this path wasn't just thrilling, it was dangerous. Sometimes the heart wants what it shouldn't. Would you risk it all for a love that's as dangerous as it is irresistible? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe to Silent Confession's Story of Infidelity for more stories of passion, betrayal, and forbidden desires. Until next time.